Okay, let's go ahead and recap what we learned yesterday. So we talked quite a bit today about that correlation coefficient, okay? So if we go back into what R is in our calculator, and we did the linear regression line, and here's an R of 1. Wow, R of 1, what's going on there? Well, these points that I put in the equation or in the graph are perfectly beautiful points, but that doesn't always work that way. So the R, first of all, R must be, I write this down, R absolute, the value of R, which is what is R? It's an association between the independent and dependent variables. Okay, so if we're going to compare two variables, we can show an association, either a positive association or a negative. The stronger the association is, the stronger it is, it's going to be closer to 1. Closer to 1 or negative 1 if it's a negative association. Okay? So then we looked at this particular scatter plot. We're like, yeah, that one looks like it's a pretty strong negative correlation. We guessed at R. Well, you know, maybe R is maybe a negative 0.8. R cannot be bigger than 1, cannot be less than negative 1. Has to be, R absolutely has to be in between 1 and negative 1. Okay? Has to be. So any value R you're going to come up with is going to be between these two. Okay? We looked at this one. And then between height and IQ, well, this actually, let me back up. Miles per gallon, weight of vehicle, the heavier the car, the less gas mileage it's going to get. That seems correct. Got a big, huge dump truck, it's not going to get very good gas mileage, okay? You got a little tiny, lightweight, little car, it's going to get probably pretty good gas mileage. Okay, now let's look at this one. IQ and height, there's no way. Tall people, short people, IQ has nothing. There's no correlation. We say, okay, well then our R value, what's our R value? No correlation at all. R value might be close to 0, okay? I'm going to say maybe 0.0. Maybe it's close to that. That's just a guess. We're just guessing that, okay? We looked at C, grades on an algebra test and study. The more time you study, the higher the grade. That makes sense to me. So there's definitely a positive correlation. We guessed at the R value. Maybe R is close to maybe, I don't know, positive 0.85. We don't know. We need the calculator to come up with the actual R value, okay? And we looked at how the calculator does it. Okay, then we also looked at determining, we looked at these values. We do know that the correlation coefficient has to fall between negative 1 and 0 if it's negative, or between 1 and 0 if it's positive. So the correlation coefficient can never be bigger than 1 or smaller than negative 1. Okay, so we looked at this graph and we guessed. Well, I would guess negative 0.9 because it's go down, it's a negative correlation. It's pretty close to being straight. We looked at this one. It's not as tight, definitely positive, but it's a little bit more spread out, so we guessed it to be about 0.7. Okay. Then we looked at this one. It's scattering all over the place. It doesn't look like much correlation, but so between any of these, we say, well, it's close to 0. So we said the correlation could be about 0.01. Okay. In our notes, we talked a little bit more about it, right? And our correlation coefficient. We just said basically that if it's positive or negative, the correlation coefficient is a positive or negative relation, and how strong a correlation is. Closer it is to 1 or negative 1, it's a strong correlation. The range for R is always between negative 1 and 1. Okay. Now the homework we did was a worksheet. We did on skills review. We did page 39 and page 40, where we came up with the equation using the stat function, and we hopefully have notes on how to do that. Here are notes on how to find the equation using the statistics button in our calculator. Then we predicted 2012, which would be year. If you let this be year 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we wanted year 12, we'd put in 2 into our equation, and we found the answers to predicted values. Okay, that's all I have. And then I will talk to you guys soon. Do the homework.